Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into the top 10 most hated countries in the world. Now before you grab your pitchforks and start typing angry comments, please note, this video is based on various surveys and does not reflect personal opinions. Think of it like a global popularity contest, but instead of sashes and crowns, we're dealing with, well, a lot of international side-eye. So buckle up as we unpack why these nations find themselves on this controversial list. Coming in at number 10 is India. Now, India is a vibrant democracy with a rich history, delicious food, and Bollywood. I mean, who doesn't love a good Bollywood dance number? But it's also a country grappling with political tensions, particularly with its neighbor Pakistan. Throw in some historical conflicts and a few border disputes, and you've got a recipe for some international friction. It's like that family gathering where everyone loves the food but avoids talking politics at all costs. Let's be real, India's also got its fair share of internal challenges, from poverty and inequality to religious tensions. And these issues, when they spill over into the international arena, can definitely make some folks raise an eyebrow. It's important to remember that every country has its complexities, and India's no exception. Ultimately, India's position on this list is a reminder that even nations with incredible cultural richness and global influence can still face criticism and, yes, even a bit of hate from certain corners of the world. At number 9, we have Syria. Now, I don't need to tell you that Syria's been through a rough time. We're talking years of civil war, a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, and a refugee exodus that's touched every corner of the globe. This isn't exactly the kind of stuff that wins you popularity contests, you know? The conflict in Syria has become a tangled web of international interests, with various countries backing different sides and proxy wars playing out on Syrian soil. It's like a geopolitical game of chess, but the pieces are real people and the stakes are incredibly high. Add to that the rise of ISIS, a terrorist organization that's used Syria as a base of operations, and you can see why the international community has some complicated feelings about the nation. It's a heartbreaking situation, and it's no surprise that Syria finds itself on this list, even if it's through no fault of its own. Coming in at number 8 is Iraq. Now, Iraq has been through the ringer, folks. Decades of war, the shadow of Saddam Hussein's regime, the rise of terrorism, and a level of instability that's made it hard for the country to find its footing on the global stage. The 2003 US-led invasion of Iraq is a particularly contentious issue, with many arguing that it destabilized the region and led to the rise of groups like ISIS. It's a complex issue with no easy answers, and it's definitely contributed to Iraq's less than stellar reputation in some circles. Let's not forget the ongoing struggles with corruption, sectarian violence, and a lack of basic services for many Iraqis. It's a tough situation, and it's understandable why some people might view Iraq with a mix of suspicion and negativity. At number 7, we have Iran. Iran's relationship with the West has been, shall we say, complicated for decades. Political isolation, sanctions, and accusations of supporting terrorism haven't exactly made Iran the life of the party on the international scene. Then there are the human rights issues. Iran's strict social laws and its treatment of dissidents have drawn criticism from human rights groups worldwide. Let's just say that freedom of speech and assembly aren't exactly thriving in Iran. Add to that Iran's nuclear ambitions, which have kept the world on edge for years, and you've got a nation that's viewed with suspicion and mistrust by many. It's like that one friend who's always up to something, but you're not sure if it's good or bad. Coming in at number 6 is Pakistan. Pakistan, much like India, finds itself in a bit of a geopolitical pickle. The country's been grappling with political instability, terrorism, and a tense relationship with its neighbor India. It's like having a roommate you can't quite trust, and you're both constantly on edge. Pakistan's also been accused of harboring terrorist groups, and its involvement in the war in Afghanistan has further complicated its relationship with the West. It's a country that's often caught in the crosshairs of global power struggles, and that can definitely take a toll on its international image. Let's not forget the internal challenges Pakistan faces, including poverty, corruption, and social inequality. It's a lot for any nation to handle, and it's no wonder Pakistan finds itself on this list. At number 5, we have North Korea. North Korea, the land of secrecy, missile tests, and a leader who seems to have stepped out of a Bond villain casting call. It's no secret that North Korea is one of the most isolated and repressive regimes on the planet. Their human rights record is abysmal, with reports of labor camps, torture, and executions. The country's also been developing nuclear weapons, which has made it public enemy number 1 for a good chunk of the international community. It's safe to say that North Korea isn't winning any popularity contests anytime soon. Their policies and actions have made them a pariah state, feared and mistrusted by many. Coming in at number 4 is Israel. Israel's position on this list is a testament to the complex and often controversial nature of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For decades, the region has been locked in a cycle of violence, displacement, and political maneuvering that has left many feeling frustrated, angry, and disillusioned. Israel's policies towards the Palestinians, particularly the expansion of settlements in the West Bank, have drawn widespread international condemnation. The construction of a separation barrier, checkpoints, and the ongoing blockade of Gaza have only added fuel to the fire. While Israel has its supporters who view the nation as a beacon of democracy in a turbulent region, its actions in the occupied territories have alienated many and contributed to its controversial status on the global stage. At number 3, we have China. Now, China's economic rise has been nothing short of meteoric, but with great power comes great, scrutiny. China's growing influence on the world stage has been met with a mixture of admiration, anxiety, and yes, even resentment. China's human rights record, particularly its treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province, has drawn sharp criticism from human rights groups and governments worldwide. Add to that, concerns about China's crackdown on dissent in Hong Kong and its increasingly assertive foreign policy in the South China Sea, and you've got a recipe for some international tension. It's a classic case of a rising power facing pushback from the established order, and it's no surprise that China finds itself in the top 3 on this list. Coming in at number 2 is the United States. Now, the US is a global superpower, a cultural powerhouse, and the birthplace of democracy as we know it. But it's also a country whose foreign policy decisions, cultural exports, and internal struggles have made it a target of both admiration and animosity. The US has been involved in numerous military interventions around the world, from Vietnam to Iraq, and its foreign policy has often been criticized as being interventionist and self-serving. Then there's the issue of cultural imperialism. American culture, from Hollywood movies to fast food chains, has spread across the globe, leading to accusations of homogenization and the erosion of local cultures. And let's not forget the US's own internal demons, from racial injustice to gun violence, which often play out on the world stage and contribute to a perception of hypocrisy and internal contradiction. And finally, at number 1, we have Russia. Russia has long been a source of fascination and fear for the West. From the Cold War to the annexation of Crimea, Russia's actions on the world stage have often been met with suspicion and condemnation. Russia's current leader, Vladimir Putin, is a figure who inspires both admiration and apprehension. His assertive foreign policy, crackdown on dissent, and alleged meddling in foreign elections have made him a lightning rod for criticism. Add to that Russia's history of military intervention in neighboring countries, its support for authoritarian regimes, and its alleged use of cyber warfare to destabilize its adversaries, and you can see why Russia finds itself at the top of this list. It's a country that's often seen as a threat to the established world order, and its actions have earned it the dubious distinction of being the most hated country in the world, at least according to these surveys. So, there you have it, the top 10 most hated countries in the world. Now, it's important to remember that these rankings are based on perceptions, and perceptions can be influenced by a whole host of factors, from media coverage to historical baggage to political agendas. It's easy to point fingers and make judgments, but it's much harder to understand the complexities that drive international relations and shape global opinions. Ultimately, this list is a starting point for conversation, not a definitive verdict on any of these nations. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful videos like this one. we'll continue to explore the complicated and often messy realities of our world.